anytime, anywhere. Award-winning coverage you can count on. This is ABC 13 News.
Wild weather is wreaking havoc in several parts of the country. Twisters and severe thunderstorms even taking lives. Tonight, a look at the damage and what you can expect here at home. Plus,
I'm David Tate in Roanoke County, where a community is coming together to bring a band of brothers to the Roanoke Valley to say goodbye to a fallen friend.
and we have a live update from Appomattox as a woman accused of letting a little boy get bullied on her school bus goes in front of a jury. Thanks for watching 13 News at 5 o'clock tonight. I'm Dana Evans. We are dealing with a tornado watch tonight and the threat of severe thunderstorms. Take a look at the scene today in downtown Lynchburg. Lots of wet roads after some storms rolled through, bringing in heavy rain, lightning, and thunder. And tonight, it seems we can expect much more of the same. Here's a look at what that same storm left behind in the Midwest overnight. We've been seeing these pictures all day. Tornado sightings from Nebraska down to Tennessee. Right now, there have been 9 confirmed deaths. Some of them were in Harrisonburg, Illinois. A tornado ripped through that small town early this morning.
It's unbelievable. I can't believe the measure of damage it did to this building. It's like there was just no structure and it just took it completely out. I mean, as you can tell, it's total devastation. I've not ever seen anything like it.
We're seeing all sorts of pictures like these. Another hard-hit town, Harveyville, Kansas. Officials estimate about 40 to 60% of that town was damaged by a tornado. And in Hardin County, Kansas, there was so much debris on one highway, only emergency vehicles were allowed on it. The governors of both Illinois and Missouri today issued states of emergency. And Chief Meteorologist Sean Sublett is here with me now. And Sean, the mess that we're seeing across the country is the same system that you're kind of been tracking here in the Weather Center tonight.
It is a very large one. It goes down to the Gulf Coast. It transitions even farther north into the Great Lakes and the interior Northeast. They're getting snow out of it. So it is a massive storm system. Our little piece of it will be coming into here over the next several hours. Already getting a good number of thunder showers edging into the western highlands of the Commonwealth, but a lot of the lightning has begun to back off a little bit, but we're still going to have some heavy rain through a good part of Botetourt and Rockbridge counties. Central and South Side Virginia will get their turns later on into the evening. Tornado watch for all those areas shaded in red until 10 p.m. And even though Lynchburg and Southside technically not involved in this watch, certainly close enough where that threat is going to be with us through at least 10 o'clock as temperatures hover in the lower 60s before those showers and thunderstorms do get going. More on the forecast in just a few minutes. Dana.
All right, we'll see you then, Sean. Well, he lost his life during protests of the burnings of the Quran in Afghanistan. Now, hundreds of people have stepped up to help the family of fallen Roanoke County soldier Sergeant T.J. Conrad. Today, his family held a fundraiser to help offset some travel expenses so all of his soldier friends from Georgia and Afghanistan can come to his funeral. David Tate was there, and he is live from our Roanoke studio tonight with the story.
Yeah, hey, Danner, in the relatively short period of time that I was there, well-wishers did not stop coming by the entire time, and by noon they had raised enough money to meet all of their initial goals.
In there, and if you would like,
The constant trickle of people never stopped.
we just come to donate to help.
They followed the yellow ribbons and American flags that led the way. They came to pay respects to tell Tim Conrad thank you for his family's sacrifice.
Well, I'll let other people talk about that. But right now, the only time I seem to get choked up is, I don't know why, all this touches me, but...
While trying to juggle funeral arrangements and grief for his son, Conrad's main concern is really elsewhere.
I just honestly am worried about...
His concern is over his son's friends, who he wanted to help out so they could attend Sergeant T.J. Conrad's funeral. So the call went out and spread like fire. Tim's boss knew what he had to do by offering the office as center of operations, and he's been busy.
It's been very busy, but been a wonderful 24 hours.
And long before it was over, the goals were met. A satisfaction that will allow a father to step back and process what has happened.
They're bringing their wives with them. They're that close. Their wives want to be with Holly, and you know, most all of them are carrying their kids. I mean, it's just, I don't want them spending rent money to be here for TJ.
A very humble man I met today. Now I'll tell you, Sergeant Conrad's body is still in Dover, Delaware tonight, and that means that his funeral arrangements have not been solidified. He leaves behind a young wife as well as a young son. His name is Bentley. Now, as for that original goal, the fundraiser is complete, but Mr. Conrad tells me that any additional money collected will go to a fund set up for Bentley. You can donate to that fund at any Wells Fargo bank across our area in the name of Sergeant T.J. Conrad. Danner.
So great seeing that community come together. Thank you, David Tate, reporting live in Roanoke. Well, new at 5, the child abuse trial of a former Appomattox County school bus driver is expected to go late into the night tonight. The case against Nancy Davis alleges that on May 5th of last year, she allowed 2 15-year-olds to bully a 10-year-old while riding home from school. Jeremy Mills is covering the trial from us for Appomattox this evening. And Jeremy, the prosecution describes that abuse as nothing short of torture. Big word there.
Yeah, Danner, we've already heard descriptions of verbal abuse, including racial remarks, and physical abuse, such as being burned by a cigarette lighter. Now, we should point out the 2 teens involved in this abuse. They've already been convicted on charges of assault and battery and disorderly conduct. This trial tonight is intended to go after the bus driver. The prosecution's key piece of evidence so far has been the surveillance camera on the school bus. It's roughly an hour and 15 minutes long, showing about 40 minutes of torment by the much larger teens. On the tape, you can hear Nancy Davis telling the victim that it is his fault because, quote, he's all the time saying stuff he shouldn't be saying. Now, the mother of the now 11-year-old says he has suffered psychological trauma as a result of this and requires weekly counseling. We should point out the victim's family has filed a $31.5 million civil suit against the school system here. Nancy Davis, is a defense attorney, has attempted to bring that up in court, but the judge says he's not allowed to do it. The judge saying it will cause unfairly prejudicial to the prosecution, so he won't let them bring that up. We're going to go back in and have more for you coming up at 6. Reporting live in Appomattox, Jeremy Mills, ABC 13 News.
Also keeping you updated tonight at WSCT.com. Thank you, Jeremy. The man who stabbed 2 women in Danville is still out there tonight. We first brought you this story on Monday, and tonight Danville police hope that you'll recognize this guy, 30-year-old Carl Garland Logan. He is charged with malicious wounding and should be considered armed and dangerous. Investigators say that he stabbed 2 women on Pierce Street Sunday night. One of those women is still in the hospital. If you see Logan, call 911 immediately. It is a rough week in Chardon, Ohio, following a school shooting that left 3 students dead. Teachers and staff went back to work today, and students, they're going to return on Friday. The 17-year-old accused shooter, TJ Lane, was mostly quiet during his first court appearance yesterday, where prosecutors say he admitted to firing 10 rounds at a group of students in the high school cafeteria. Prosecutors call Lane, quote, someone who is not well. One piece of good news, though, one of the 2 students who survived has been released from the hospital. Always looking for that silver lining. Well, tonight, we do know the funeral arrangements set for an Amherst County man hit by a tractor trailer this week. 64-year-old Dennis Cash died Monday on Route 130 as he was cleaning up an accident. Police say a tractor trailer came through, hitting him and pinning him to his tow truck. He owned Cash's garage in Madison Heights. His funeral is set for Saturday at Witten Monellison Chapel at 1. Cash leaves behind his wife of 35 years and 4 sons. New at 5 tonight, the mother of a Botetourt County student who claimed a teacher assaulted him has filed a civil suit against that teacher. Victor Terry had been charged with assault, but that charge was dismissed. Prosecutors said there was not enough evidence to prove that he grabbed the child in a way that was disruptive to the rest of the class. But they said the parents did have the right to file a civil suit. Terry and the Botetourt County School Board are listed as defendants. Well, we have dramatic video of a mother on the brink, on the top of a bridge, getting ready to jump, baby in hand. Find out how they are still alive. And we have a special report tonight about a man on death row. Hear Leon Winston's story as he and his attorneys fight to keep him alive.
And the gusty breezes have kicked in from the south and southwest early on this evening, bringing in the moisture, which will then bring in the threat for thunderstorms. The forecast is next.
He's the first man a Lynchburg jury has sentenced to death in more than half a century. But is Leon Winston on death row because of a technicality?
There are all sorts of technical rules that can result in one's client being executed even though the facts say that he shouldn't have been, or even that he can't be.
Join us for a look at a complicated case and a judge's ruling that may be Winston's lifeline. Today on ABC 13 News at 5. You're watching ABC 13 News. Award-winning coverage of Lynchburg, Danville, Bedford, Roanoke, and the New River Valley.
You know, we've been watching these images of all that tornado damage from across the country all day long, and that's the same line of storm systems as you were telling us that is causing this tornado watch in our area right now.
Yeah, if you were with us last night at 11 o'clock, that's when it really started to generate into Kansas, moving toward Kansas City, and everything kind of spreading eastward. And as you alluded to, much of the area is under the tornado watch until 10 o'clock this evening. Watch means conditions are favorable for the development of tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. So again, it's all these areas shaded in red. You look, Amherst County, Campbell County, South Side Virginia, at least through Pennsylvania and Halifax County, technically not into the watch, but anytime you are this close to the watch by a county or two, you should pretty much consider yourself in it. So we think all of the heart of Virginia under the threat of damaging thunderstorms as we go forward into the latter part of the evening. The main line right now sets up from Lewisburg, West Virginia down to Bluefield. One good thing we've noticed is the amount of lightning has faded as this is pushed east into the Commonwealth through a good part of Rockbridge and Botetourt counties. But this isn't the one that we're most concerned about for central and south side Virginia. There are more storms developing in Tennessee that have their eyes on us for later on into the night. Temperatures will only slowly fall through the 50s this evening, as it is going to be a mild time out there, especially for the last night of February. Still 59 in Lynchburg now, 64 in Roanoke, and 63 in Blacksburg, courtesy of these gusty breezes really starting to kick in now from the south and southwest, running 10 to as much as 20 miles an hour. There's the area of thunderstorms we're watching for later on tonight, basically going for the Kentucky-Virginia line and extending down towards Knoxville, Tennessee. They're on a bearing that would bring them into Southside Virginia and Lynchburg over the coming 2 to 4 hours or so. That's why we think the threat is actually enhanced later on into the night. And as Danner alluded to, it is a massive storm system anchored right now up across the Great Lakes, the cold front going all the way down the Gulf Coast. And on the north side of this system, got snow across a good part of the Adirondacks and the Green and White Mountains up in the interior New England. With more on just how much moisture is being pulled into this storm, let's go outside to meteorologist Lindsay Tapassis.
All right, Sean, a lot of you may have noticed how humid it was outside today. I kind of felt it more inside as opposed to outside, but nonetheless, these dew points, not only here in Virginia, but across much of the southeast, are well into the 50s, even upper 60s, and these are more typical of values that we would see in late spring, early summer. So we're dealing with kind of more of a spring summer like air mass here. Remember, the dew point is a measure of the amount of moisture in the atmosphere. The higher the dew point, the higher the moisture content, and that's just more moisture that those thunderstorms will use to develop and strengthen. You can't have tall, strong thunderstorm clouds without enough moisture to support those. Huge contrast in the dew points ahead of that front and behind it where it is much drier. So Sean, that's just one of the factors, and we have a couple more that will all come together to produce this severe storm threat for us tonight.
So again, the wind gusts could be upwards of 60 or even 70 miles an hour in some of these stronger thunderstorms later on into the evening, as the lows only go down to about 50. And then for tomorrow, it's sunny, windy, and warm. Highs into the upper 60s to near 70 across central Virginia, up into the low 70s across south side Virginia. Again, the winds then more from the west. And the mountains also quite windy, with highs here running in the middle and upper 60s with a good amount of sunshine. Friday, we watch clouds roll back in, but then it's Saturday, we see another round of showers and the potential for strong thunderstorms again. Once they're gone, it is sharply colder for Sunday and into Monday of next week. Danner.
Thank you, Sean. Up next, an ABC 13 News special report about a man that's been on death row for 8 years. He's convicted of killing a Lynchburg couple, but his attorneys say one key piece of evidence could be the deciding factor on whether he lives or dies. For the last 8 years, he's lived on death row for the 2002 murders of a Lynchburg couple and their unborn child. But new evidence that suggests he's mentally retarded may just spare his life. Rachel Scher takes a look at the case of Leon Winston and why some say executing him is against the law.
It was the age-old motive for murder, drugs and money, that put Leon Winston behind bars. But an IQ test that the jury never saw may be his last lifeline. It's just the latest twist in one of Lynchburg's most notorious murder cases in recent history, and another roadblock, some say, to finding justice. It was a warm April morning back in 2002. Two young girls waited on the doorstep of this Sussex Street home with a tale that 10 years later, the lead detective still can't forget.
It doesn't haunt me. It saddens me probably more than anything. To be that young and to experience that is something that no child should have to.
Detectives stepped into a gruesome crime scene. Rhonda Robinson, who was 6 months pregnant, was gunned down by a man with a dog tattoo while her two little girls watched. Her husband and their stepfather, Anthony Robinson, was already bleeding to death downstairs. The evidence against Leon Winston was strong. His DNA was on the murder weapon. The victim's 8-year-old daughter testified seeing him at the murder scene. And even his close friend told jurors Winston admitted to the killings.
Showed no emotion. You see him, he laughed a few times with his lawyers. He turned around, glanced at the pictures, as they showed him, as though it was a dead bird.
Nobody, gets a death penalty until the prosecutors first say that's where we're going. It's not an easy decision. It's not a pleasant decision, but it is justice.
But Winston got a chance the Robinsons never had. Last year, a federal judge lifted his death sentence because of an IQ score of 66, below the 70 threshold for mental retardation. The Attorney General's office is appealing that decision, so a Fourth Circuit court judge or a jury will likely determine Winston's fate.
I think it would be a miscarriage of justice to execute this man because it seems quite clear that he is so mentally disabled that under the Constitution, it is not permissible.
David Bruck advises attorneys whose clients are facing the death penalty. He wonders why Winston is on death row in the first place. He's working with accused Appomattox killer Christopher Spate's defense team and helped save Lee Boyd Malvo from the death penalty for his role in the Beltway sniper shootings.
In the last 4 years, Virginia has probably seen roughly 1,400 murders. There have been 2 people sentenced to death out of all of those. So Leon Winston lost the lottery in order to get to death row. And that's the freakish part.
While Leon Winston waits to hear whether the judge's decision will be upheld, 2 little girls forced to grow up too quickly are waiting too.
You listen to the stories and you see the pictures. No one can erase that.
Leon Winston is one of 11 people on Virginia's death row and the first person a Lynchburg jury sentenced to death in more than 40 years. The Attorney General's office says they're scheduled to be in court this May to fight to keep him there. Winston's attorneys could not comment because of his pending appeal. Danner?
Much more of that to come. Thank you, Rachel Sherritt, reporting live tonight. Well, leap year only comes around every 4 years, and some say it's the only day appropriate for a woman to take a big step in her relationship with a man.
ABC 13 weather. Most accurate 6 years in a row.
A new severe thunderstorm warning is in effect until 5:45 this afternoon for Rockbridge and Bath counties. Enclosed in that orange rectangle there, that does include Lexington and areas along Interstate 64 into adjacent locations of Allegheny County as well. Look for damaging wind gusts upwards of 60 miles per hour in that particular cell. Remember, severe thunderstorms have winds in excess of 58 miles per hour and occasionally large hail 1 inch in diameter or greater. But despite what you might believe, we don't have a heavy rain criteria or a lightning criteria for severe storms. Dan.
All right, thank you, Sean. Some people consider Leap Day Sadie Hawkins Day. Okay, I hadn't heard of this before, but go with me on this one. We met up with an amorous couple who say when they were growing up 50 years ago, today was the only day of the year when a woman could ask a man to marry her.
If you were a single guy and wanted to remain single, this was a day that was not a date night. No. You didn't do that.
Hide out in your man cave. Well, Sadie Hawkins Day originated from Al Capp's cartoon strip Lil Abner, which started in the 1930s. In the strip, Sadie is 35 years old and unwed. Imagine that in the 1930s. Her father created a challenge asking all the single men in town to run in a foot race. Whichever man Sadie caught, she would marry. So, little twist on that day today. Well, it was down to the last second for a mother and her newborn baby as she tried to jump off this bridge. See the dramatic rescue just before they both went into the water. Just look at this dramatic video where a police officer in China is stopping a woman from jumping to her death. And look, she has a baby in her arms too. Commuters called police after seeing that woman on the ledge of the bridge with her child. An officer rides up to the woman on this motorbike. Just as she is seemingly about to jump, the policeman rushes in, pulls her back towards the road. Police say family problems sparked that suicide attempt. Well, it has been a wild day of weather, and it all started in the Midwest. Coming up on 13 News at 5:30, we've got video from the hardest hit spots, including a hotel in Missouri.